with the desperateness. So in a way, is turmoil bad or good? It's good. Why? Because it led Hannah to pray more. Verse 12. As she continued praying before the Lord, Eli observed her mouth. Hannah was speaking in her... Verse 11. And now when she was praying and praying and praying, there was no answer. What was Hannah praying for? Hannah was praying for the son. Who's the son? That is to come.
Daniel.
Samuel. Did you say Nathaniel? Daniel?
Daniel, you know in the skit?
Okay. Daniel is the Samuel, right?
Oh.
Okay. All right. Good answer. Okay. Now what happens? Samuel? No. What is it? Hannah prays and prays and prays, and no answer. Then what happens? And she vowed a vow and said, O Lord of hosts, if you will indeed look on the afflictions of your servant and remember me and not forget your servant, but will give to your servant a son, then I will give him to the Lord all the days of his life, and no razor shall touch his head. Now, in the beginning, Hannah prayed what? Can I have son? Can I have son? Can I have son? Was it given to her? No. But Hannah's prayer changed. How did she pray? If you give me a son, I will give him to you. Right? Now, if you look at 1 Samuel, what's the before generation of 1 Samuel? What's the previous generation of 1 Samuel? And actually, not previous generation. What is the generation? Which generation is this time era? 1 Samuel time era. 사사기. Kevin said. Okay, Kevin teacher said. It's not Judges time. Now, when you remember Judges time, what kind of time is it? It's a dark age. It's very dark. Dark. Right? It's like the worst of ever generation. Now, therefore, God was in need of a true man of God for that generation to come about. So God's will and God's desire is to what? Have that true man of God raised up, to use that man of God to change this generation of judges. So that was the direction of what? God. Now Hannah's prayer in the beginning was just asking for son, but Hannah's prayer was saying, if you give me the son, I will give that son to you. So in the beginning, the prayer was not aligned with God's will. It wasn't aligned with what God wanted, what God desired, what God was in need of. But as Hannah's prayer came to align with God's will, when Hannah's prayer was in accordance with God's will, right there, the son was given. If you just ask for a son, it's not going to be answered. But when Hannah prayed, if you give me the son, I'll give it to you so that you could use it. Now, right there, God's like, I was in need of that one man who's really for me to change this generation. That's Samuel. So God's will and God's direction was in accordance with, aligning with the Hannah's prayer. That's where the prayer was answered. So what is prayer? Prayer is not asking whatever you want and having it, but prayer is changing your will to His will. It aligns with His will, it eventually blends with His will, and through that, God will answer and God's work will be done. Verse 12. As she continued praying before the Lord, Eli observed her mouth. Hannah was speaking in her heart, only lips moved, and her voice was not heard. Therefore Eli took her to be a drunken woman. And Eli said to her, how long will you go on being drunk? Put your wine away from you. But Hannah answered. Now up to here. Hannah was praying hard and hard and hard. But Eli, who was Eli? Eli is a priest, right? Noticed Hannah as being drunk. Why do you drink too much wine? Right? Now, when Eli was giving that statement, who does he reminds you of in this story? Who does Eli reminds you of?
The husband.
The husband. Oh, yeah. See, Eli is the same type of people like who? Elkanah. Now, do you kind of see this? Who's the main character here? Hannah, right? Now, in the Bible, whenever a woman becomes a main character and focus of the story, always surroundings, who do you find?
Men.
The foolish men. Okay, it's always the case. Alright? Do you hear God's voice? Do you hear God's voice? Whenever woman is rising above and spiritually being selected and being used, you see this foolish men revolving around. We beg to God that you and I will not turn like that in this generation. Okay, William? Okay, Wesley?
Yeah.
Okay, Daniel?
Yeah.
Oh man, she's like Hannah. That's not a great thing in a way. Because if she's Hannah, you must be Elkanah. You must be Eli.
Eli.
Whatever. In the Judges generation, the great woman came out and saved the Israelites. Who was her?
Esther.
Deborah.
Damn.
And Eli was not able to discern whether she was praying or drunken. He was blinded of his spiritual discernment, just like Elkanah, who couldn't solve the problem, rather increasing the problem. These are the brother character that's playing along when there's a woman of God being used. And the brothers, you and I, we should pray hard that we won't be Elkanah, that we won't be Eli, whatever.
Eli.
And Eli said to her, "How long will you go on being drunk? Put your wine away from you." But Hannah answered, "No, my Lord, I am a woman troubled in spirit. I have drunk neither wine nor strong drink, but I have been pouring out my soul before the Lord. Do not regard your servant as a worthless woman, for all along I have been speaking out of my great anxiety and vexation." Then Eli answered, "Go in peace, and the God of Israel grant your petition that you have made to him." Now her prayer was answered. There was two reasons. First reason was because her prayer changed into God's will. Second was her desperateness, her poor in spirit, her crying out with yearning. It wasn't just any kind of prayer. It was a prayer where people looked at it and said, "Wow, you're drunk." That kind of desperate prayer was coming out from her. And to those who are desperate and poor in spirit, God will not abandon. He will be there, answering the prayer when you are desperate. Verse 19, they rose early in the morning and worshipped before the Lord, and then they went back to their house at Ramah, and Elkanah knew Hannah his wife, and the Lord remembered her, and in due time Hannah conceived and bore a son, and she called his name Samuel, for she said, "I have asked for him from the Lord." The name was what?
Samuel.
Samuel. And what does it mean? I have asked for him from the Lord. Right? Yes. Now how can your prayer be answered? When you
with God's
ask. Okay? When you ask him, he will answer your prayer. It sounds so, so obvious. But many times, if you carefully examine your prayer, basically you talk a lot, but you never clearly ask. Is there a clear, objective thing that you're asking? When God appeared to Solomon, what do you want? Solomon said what? I want wisdom. It was clear. Right now, Michael, what do you want? God asks you, what are you going to say? It's too late. It has to come out like this. You have to always be ready. I don't know. No. When you clearly ask God, he will answer you. Verse 21, the man Elkanah and all his house went up to offer to the Lord